Good evening, one and all. Welcome, of course, to Screen to Speed Winter Cup for the very first time on Gran Turismo 7. Of course, the PlayStation exclusive has been one that hasn't been touched by any esports in Screen to Speed before. This will be the first time. Hi, I'm your commentator, Jamie Jessica Martin, of course, joined ultimately with the support of the wonderful Inner Esports crew, broadcasting produced by AK Esports, and specifically race director Sophia Romwin, and of course, Yvonne Hufala running in the background. So, this race is a little bit different to last night. If you watched us at all last night on iRacing, of course, we were running Toyota GR86s at Alton Park, a gem of the British motorsports calendar. But now we're here at an Austrian gem. Obviously, the Red Bull Ring, as it's now known, in Spielberg, Styria. It is one of the most well-known circuits, a consistent contributor to motorsports, specifically in its highest echelons in Formula 1 and in MotoGP. So 2 and 4 wheels run this track, and ultimately it has been it's been an unbelievable circuit over the years, has provided pretty good racing, but has had a history. Of course, the actual name originally of the circuit, the Osterschring, is specifically named Austrian Circuit, as it once was known. Of course, it was that until about 87. Then it was later shortened, rebuilt, and renamed the A1 Ring, before, of course, it was renamed Red Bull Ring, specifically by the company that now owns it and ultimately paid for its redevelopment. We'll now move to qualifying now, of course. We'll start off. There are a few drivers you might recognise, a few you might not. So a few names here that we haven't seen before. We're currently on board with Axe at the moment. Axe at the moment is just trying to get in some good laps. I saw some incredibly pacey laps, so far. Of course, people to watch out for, Axe is one of them. And the car behind as well is a Grona. Also is another driver that has been incredibly fast, set one of the fastest laps in practice, and ultimately you're going to see those McLaren 720S cars really show up. So far in terms of cars we've seen on the grid, unlike Toyota, yesterday's race, where it was ultimately a very, very specific manufacturer of car, a model of car, this time around we've got a mixture. All of them tuned to a very similar specification, up to GT4. Of course, we're on board at the moment with one of them, the McLaren 720S, one of the more older and more well-known GT cars, something that's been all over the world in some smaller series, and of course has started to come back into endurance racing, specifically in IMSA and also now in the World Endurance Championship this year, with the introduction of GT3 at those categories. Of course, IMSA have had GT3 for a couple more years. But other cars to keep an eye out on here, of course, there is a Toyota Supra running around the place, alongside a few Ferrari 458 Italias, the Alfa Romeo 4C, and a Mazda 3 TCR that has been upped to GT4 spec. So you'll see a few of those all around the place. Of course, we're just keeping an eye out now on Grona, of course, a streamer in her own right, someone that we haven't actually seen on the service, or at least we haven't seen before, one of the new drivers. And ultimately, it really looks strong. I'm looking at the moment at the incredible nature of this, and of course, with GT7, it is a massively different sim. Of course, iRacing is it's a pretty useful sim, of course, in terms of much different things like broadcasting, the way the cars move, the way the cars interact, and some of the rules. A difference here, if you're completely unaware of GT7's existence, is specifically around the penalty system. Unlike in iRacing, where ultimately you're told if you run off circuit and you get a time penalty, out of the fact that it says you need to serve it and you just need to let off at the best places possible, in this game, you have to when you get a penalty, you have to take it, and you have to take it by a certain point, otherwise you're forced to do so. So this will add a completely new dynamic, especially around the Red Bull Ring. Of course, looking at this moment, we'll go around the circuit once we get a chance, just to see if we can get a good lap in. But of course, it's going to be an exciting one to say the least. A good group of individuals here. In terms of you all in the broadcast, I want to, of course, welcome you all. We are currently live here on Twitch and on YouTube. So if you have anything to say in the chat, specifically who you're supporting tonight, make sure you make your support known, and ultimately just show who you're really throwing yourself for. But so far right now, it's currently Grona on board. Other names at the moment, Sandrita, KR is currently doing pretty well. And Miniac, currently in P3. We'll have a look at Sandra at the moment. This is on board with the Mazda 3 TCR. So good stuff here so far. I mean, right now it really is a competitive race so far. I mean, one tenth between Sandrita and Grona. Just coming towards the end of this lap, heading towards turn 9 and turn 10. So right now, apologies for some of the issues that we are having. Okay. Apologies about some of the issues we're having in terms of visuals. We are trying to solve some of those technical issues at this moment. So bear with us 2 seconds, but in terms of that was the fastest lap here. Here's Grona, currently P1 at the moment, fastest lap, a 1:35.262. Really rapid lap here. Of course, 1/10 ahead of Sandrita, who's trying to catch back up. But these two seem to be absolutely battling between each other in terms of setting the fastest lap time. Of course, it looks like K.A. Oliveira currently at the moment in P3, and the other Portuguese driver in the session looking to be good at this moment. But we'll wait until Girza comes around one more time, and we'll give you a proper onboard lap of this track. So right now at this moment, we're just waiting for Girza to come back round. So coming round the final section here, we are going to focus, of course, on the very small but ultimately very, very competitive places here around the circuit. As we cross the line at this moment, So apologies at the moment. Of course, we are going to hop back in at the moment. We are just having some problems with the broadcast at this moment. We will try and get this all sorted, but for now, we will talk a little bit. So, more than anything, I like I said, I want to get involved and make sure all of you get your say tonight. So make sure that in the conversations on Twitch and on YouTube, you comment and you specifically mention who you're supporting tonight. Is there someone that you're specifically supporting? Is there someone that you want to see do well? Make sure you show your support in the chat. So at this moment, of course, we're just waiting for a little bit more. We've got some nice scenic views here, of course, of the Styrian circuit. Of course, it really is something special. This circuit has gone through so many updates over the years. It really has been something special, something that ultimately it's one of the surviving circuits that really has just developed and redeveloped over time and has continued to just keep coming back to the highest levels. Of course, 2014 Formula One came back to this circuit, and of course, it was followed up by MotoGP in 2016. Off the back there, of course, we're now back on board. We'll go from here and we'll tell you about a lap here of the Red Bull Ring. So this is turn 1, which is known as Niki Lauda, renamed, of course, after the three-time Formula One world champion. Of course, one of the most successful Austrian drivers of all time, one of only 2 to ever win a world championship, alongside Jochen Rindt. Of course, we go through turn 2s and turn 3 specifically. That's the misnomer right there. That turn into the right is actually turn 3, as there is a subtle turn at the end of sector 1, midway through the section. So that will be turn 2. Now we're heading into Rach in P4, and I have butchered that name, so major apologies there for anyone that is, you know, I would expect nothing less from my British-based voice. At this moment, we're seeing a little bit of bobbing as we head around turn 6. So this is the end of the beginning of the second sector here, and we are just running around here through turn 7, kick back into turn 8. And as we keep going down this long straight into that very name I mentioned earlier, Rindt, named of course after former Formula One world champion Jochen Rindt, heading into turn 10, the final turn, heading down the main straight. So a new lap record there for Gears Corona. Really strong stuff there. Can Sandrita respond? Now 3 tenths down, and it doesn't look like it. So we'll keep an eye on some of the other drivers. We've got a few Portuguese drivers in this session. Of course, this is Tanokitas, currently heading on their best. At this moment, this is their final lap, so they have to make a decision. They have to make a decision here to see how well they do. So we're looking at this moment, heading around turn 9 into turn 10, the final corner. Tanokitas right now, P5. Coming across the line, what are we going to see? Improvement. Anna. Looks like no improvement there. Urkold. No improvement on their front as well. Sarah Hawkey is still in here, yet to finish their lap. Giza, though, looks to be in advantage place. Looks to potentially have this one locked up. We'll have a look and see what happens. We'll have a look and we'll see what we get. We'll look at the results at the end of the session. So, Gears of Corona just waiting right now. And that's not much of an improvement. That was an improvement, but it was close to being. Good lap there, of course, for the leading driver. Can one of these two make an impact? Sandrita, that's not an improvement there. And that is the final lap, of course, of qualifying. So we are going to be starting with a a mixed front row at the moment. Here's Griona, of course, with the fastest lap. Sandrita currently P2. Justin, of course, the British Twitch streamer in P3. A good lap there towards the end of the session to get herself back up. So we're just waiting for the results. Of course, Gears Grona leading the way with a 1:34.989, an incredible lap. And apologies, it's a 650F SGR4. Sandrita KR finishes P2 with Justin in P3. Tanokitas in P4 with K.A. Oliveira in P5. Gercold in P6 with Anna Miniak in P7 and Sarah Hawkey in P8. Sharon Fly will start in P9, and Axe, of course, will start in P10 right to the back of the grid. Doesn't look like Axe managed to get in a good lap there. There will be a few people rejoining later on in the session, as I think there were some issues with there were some issues and some dropouts. So this isn't the full grid. So as we get ready right now, of course, looking at the scenic views right now here, the Styria countryside in the mountains, one of the most scenically beautiful racetracks in the world. Of course, Red Bull Ring is well up there with the likes of Fuji International, of course, home and built in the views surrounded by Mount Fuji. But the Red Bull Ring, of course, in Styria has also had an important part in history in the last couple of years. Specifically, of course, in the year 2020, in the COVID years, of course, as motorsport and the world came to a stop, ultimately the Red Bull Ring was there to support both major sports, specifically 2 and 4 wheels, Formula One and MotoGP. Specifically had 2 races here. Of course, the Austrian Grand Prix and the Styrian Grand Prix, or Motorcycle Grand Prix, depending. So really got a lot of use, especially, and helped keep motorsports alive during a very strange period for much of the world. And ultimately, it's paying its dividends. You get some incredible racing here at all levels, whether that be in the top echelons to those, of course, of World Superbike, or specifically other development Formula Series. Really, this track is something special. And hopefully we're going to see some special stuff tonight here at the Winter Cup. We will be right back in a moment. Of course, we're going to go on a short interval. Make sure you don't go away.